gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, trying. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. Monday, March 23rd, and a sweet Monday it is for a lot of basketball fans in the Quad Cities. We have not one, not two, but all three area teams that we love to cover and talk about here in this area going to the Sweet 16, including the Iowa Hawkeyes are in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999. It sounds weird to even say. It's been a great season, first season under Ben McCullum. Obviously, when you're a program that hasn't been to the Sweet 16 since 1999, that's the litmus test these days of Iowa basketball. To get there last night, an amazing night for Iowa fans, and we've got you covered with that and so much more when it comes to Illinois and everything else as well. Thanks for watching here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. We are on YouTube. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you have not subscribed, please do so ASAP because we got a lot to get to today and, of course, the rest of the week as well. We're also live on X. X has been very, very good to us. So if you're on X, thank you for that. YouTube, X, wherever you're at, make sure you're interacting with the show as well. On YouTube, we have a great chat going right now. I'm going to get there as much as I can and chat with you as well. Some great guests today on the show, so a lot to talk about here on a Monday. So be interactive with the show as well. We're also available on all the podcasting platforms as well. So Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Go on there and put in Off There with Matt Randazzo. You can listen to the show. It's up right after we get done every day about noon. We get it right up there. So make sure you're listening there as well. And then, of course, our viewers in Central Iowa, welcome to you. We're on the WHO streaming app each and every evening as well. So thank you guys for joining us. As we mentioned, a big March Madness Sweet 16 Monday here on the show. How about this for a lineup of guests? We mentioned Iowa in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999. A couple of those guys that started on that team in 1999, Jess Settles and Kent McCausland, they're both standing by. We'll chat with both of them. Also teammates with, of course, J.R. Koch, J.R.'s son Cooper, part of this amazing story when it comes to Iowa basketball. So we'll have them in just a matter of moments. Also later in hour number one, he's been great with us all season. One of my favorite athletes to cover here in the Quad Cities. And then, of course, at the University of Iowa as well. Nicholas Baer, the Bear Cage, will be here to dissect and talk about what happened with Iowa shocking the world and beating Florida last night to go to the Sweet 16. Also, we mentioned Illinois in the Sweet 16. It's their second time in 3 years. They'll move on to Houston. They did that on Saturday night. We have Mike Cagley with the Illini guys joining us in hour number 2 to talk all about the Illini as well. And besides all of that, there's a really awesome event going on tonight down at the Carver Center. It'll be the Iowa versus Illinois senior all-star event. The best in Illinois, the best in Iowa. There's a three-point shooting contest, a slam dunk contest. We'll talk all about that with Gary Thrapp later in hour number 2 of the show as well. So a ton to get to. We'll get to the headlines quickly. We've talked all about it already. Iowa heading to the Sweet 16. They knocked off Florida. Dramatic fashion last night, 73-72. Iowa getting a three-pointer with 4.4 seconds left from Alvaro Figueres to take the lead, and then they get the stop defensively to punch their ticket to the Sweet 16. We mentioned Iowa State earlier in the day. They did the same. It was a sloppy start for them against Kentucky, but the Cyclones right the ship and dominate in the second half. So despite the injury to Joshua Jefferson, it is the Cyclones heading to the Sweet 16 coming up this weekend as well. So, and third time in 5 years for them. And then, of course, we talked about the Illini. They are heading back. They beat VCU. Impressive performance. 2 really dominating performances. They go to Houston. Iowa's going to Houston. Nebraska going to Houston. So it's Nebraska and Iowa in game 1 on Thursday night. And then it's Illinois and Houston. Houston playing basically at home. A big game. So a massive doubleheader of college basketball on Thursday. And for Iowa and Illinois fans, I'm going to talk about this a lot. I tweeted it last night. If you're a gambler, Iowa's plus 130 to beat Nebraska, and Illinois plus 130. So slight underdogs, both of them. If you put them together and if you bet on it, it's basically 4-1 odds that Iowa and Illinois will both win, meaning Iowa and Illinois would play on Saturday with a chance to go to the Final Four. If I would have told anybody in November that Iowa and Illinois were going to play to go to the Final Four, what do you think the odds would be? 1 in a million, maybe? That could happen on Saturday. It's my favorite rivalry growing up. For me, Bears Lions, because I'm a Lions fan here in Bears country, but Iowa, Illinois is what sports in the Quad Cities are built on. I remember growing up listening to sports talk radio and Dan Birch and all those guys. I remember Tom Kakert and Ken Prince, who are dear friends of mine, listening to those 2 knuckleheads argue about Iowa and Illinois. And now it could be Iowa versus Illinois to go to the Final Four on Saturday. First things first, huge games on Thursday, and we have to talk about what happened this past weekend. So a ton to get to on today's show. So glad you guys are joining me, and we'll start with the Iowa Hawkeyes because, well, it hadn't been done in 27 years. In fact, the last time Iowa played in the Sweet 16, these 2 were on the court for the University of Iowa. So joining us now to talk about Iowa being in the Sweet 16 for the first time since these 2 guys were young pups, just youngins. Kent McCausland and Jess is joining me right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Both of them, of course, part of the 1999 Sweet 16 team. Gentlemen, happy Monday. The Hawks are in the Sweet 16, Jess.
A truly historic night. I can hardly believe that it happened. Florida is a juggernaut. I consider them to be a blue blood. I text Kent this morning. They've got the best front line in the country. Their guards have been better. They boat raced about everybody over the last couple of months other than Vanderbilt in the SEC final. It was a bad matchup for Iowa. Our kids outplayed them for 30 out of the 40 minutes. I thought we were better. We got up big. I really thought we were going to run them out. It's like one coach said, when you fall behind to a Coach McCauland team by 12, it's basically like you're down 20. Maybe Kent told me that a few months ago. And then to take the punch against that talent. And, we as a program needed something to go our way. It's been a long time since that's happened in a game like that of that magnitude. We got a couple bounces. Florida really choked at the end, as we will get into, but the 2 of us and JR and Louie and everybody, we've hated being known as the last Sweet 16 team. We've wanted nothing to do with it. We wanted this group of kids to come along and be able to experience it. So congratulations to the guys and Coach McCollum and everybody involved. It's just incredible. And I'm glad to share it with you, Kent and Matt, here today.
Yeah, I'll throw out. I had a friend text me and said, are you guys like the 72 Dolphins where you pop the champagne, when the Hawks get beat? And I was like, he was joking, obviously, but it's just so exciting because, you've been there. You're so excited for the kids. You know what that locker room feels like after a win like that. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now, because it's just so fun. It is what you play for. It is another level of competition. It's another level of concentration on the scouting report. How do you go out and execute? Playing with your best buds that you do anything for. And now you've got this big win that's kind of that feather in your cap. And Al Fulgaris probably, he'll never have to buy another Coke in Iowa City, as Settles always used to say. It's just, you're just happy for those kids because it's not like, we're 500 in the Big Ten. This team is not they've got some flaws. They've had some issues throughout the game or the years, just up and down and different highs and lows. But the fact is, they came out and they said, you know what, we're just going to fight. We're going to fight harder than Florida is. We're going to wanting it is a tough thing to say. Every team wants it when they're out there on the floor, but they were just willing to fight just a little bit more. And I felt really great that, hey, we're going to make it a game. Now, I didn't know if we'd win this basketball game, but I knew we'd make it a game.
Gentlemen, I got to ask you, I'm on a text group with like Anger and Joe Conklin, bunch of Hawkeyes, K-Kurtz on there. And I think this morning it was like when did you guys go to sleep? Or like, did you guys sleep? I got to ask both of you, and Ken, I'm going to start with you. What was your evening like? Did you sleep? Was it like a tough day getting up, going to work today? What was your celebration or your lack of sleep? It's not celebrating. I'm too old to celebrate. The adrenaline is just going. Kent, what was your evening like?
Adrenaline's still going because I'm at work and I'm happy to be here. So obviously we're still rolling. But last night, I would say I was exhausted by the end of it because you're just emotionally invested for the entire 2 hours or whatever. Fulgaris hits that three. I'm standing up in my living room. So as the night went on, as soon as the game was over, I got like 50 texts right away. And so, Settles and a bunch of other guys, Jake Jakes, Joey Range, JR, Luresman, all these guys are on a text thread, and we're just excited. We're excited for Cooper. We're excited for JR. I think that was the bulk of what that we're just excited for that story. And Coop said he was coming back. He said, I want to come back and I want to take this team to the Sweet 16 and help do it. Obviously, teammates, coaches, a lot of people are involved, but I think it was a goal of his, to make a run. And then, I thought I could go to sleep. So I'm laying in bed. It just more texts are coming through and more texts are coming through. And I tweeted out, chips and salsa and, too sensitive, because that was the Coach McCullum, towards the Florida bench and coach after the big scrum. I just thought it was great. And so I'm texting and you're just watching these videos come through, and then you watch the shot from this angle and you watch the shot from that angle, and you're just being a fan. I put the phone down and then I just laid there. I'm like, what am I doing? I might as well just get back on the phone. So I get back on the phone and then I booked my flight to Houston. So now I'm booked. Like I'm going. I don't know why I didn't go in the first place. Right. So then I booked that, and then, but I got to cancel some things. So then it's just a whole thing. And, I probably went to bed, after midnight at some point and fell asleep, but you just so honestly, the adrenaline is still running. You're just so excited for the kids in the program. I think the hard part is you got to turn it around. You got to figure out a way to get ready for the next game. Maybe it's easier because it's Nebraska, because it's going to be a dogfight and you played them before. But you're going to hear how great you are for 48 hours, and then you got to turn it around and get going and get ready for the next game.
Jess, what was it like for you last night? And then also, tell me you booked your flight, right?
I have not. I've got to work that out over the next 48 hours. I may just save my money for an Indianapolis. All right. So let me just walk this out. But yeah, I was the same way. I spent all day yesterday on the road. My daughter, as I told you, Matt, on Friday had a volleyball tournament in Indianapolis. And so we were at the convention center for 3 straight days, and it's just magnificent around there because they're preparing for the Final Four in a couple weeks. So all the huge banners and the bracket on the Marriott are all up. It just feels like it's already set up and ready to go. So I'm just, you're thinking about that the entire day. I didn't even get to watch the Clemson game, and I didn't get one text after that victory. Not one. I mean, it just was kind of a ho-hummer. We thought we would win that game. We were the better team. And then when I got home and watched, the last 5 minutes of the first half and all of the second half, my phone does just like Kent's. It just gets lit up and people come out of nowhere. And then just for fun, you jump on Twitter and everybody's going crazy, which is completely different than when we went to the Sweet 16. Obviously, the social media has just blown up the victory a millionfold. And so I think I talked to you, Matt, on Friday about I could never comprehend how famous our team became by winning that game against Arkansas that Kent won for us, and then going to the Sweet 16. The coverage, the magnitude, the passion that people have, the national coverage over the next 48 hours, it'll change their lives. I mean, it's just remarkable of what happens when you win that game. I think I went to bed. I think I went to bed about 12:30. I made the mistake of, just scrolling Twitter. I retweeted a few, and hundreds of people were retweeting those. And I think I fell asleep at about 3:30. I came out 3 or 4 times just to hang out in the living room. It was that type of night. Just so special. And, having Coop in there, as Kent will tell you, I mean, we all watch Coop grow up. Kent's basically an uncle to Coop. The rest of us are close to Coop because of JR. And so for him to have a part of it, and, obviously with the magnitude of the game, Kent, you could say that's the best game Coop's ever played in his life. The shots that he hit were so monumental. The one with 4 or 5 minutes to go where it's the hand in his face from the top, when that one went down, it was a surge in me like, we're going to win this game. Like, we'll take this. Basically 1-point game with 4 or 5 minutes to go. He has the great strip where he gets a fingernail on it late that he causes the strip on the drive, which I think we would have lost the game had he not stripped that, and they made the layup. Then he gets a defensive rebound. And then if you go back and watch the last play, which we'll dissect later because it's just, I still can't even get over what Florida did there. Coop does the fundamental ball fake to the left, sprints to the right, throws a perfect Chuck Long pass to Bennett, and the rest is history. So, I mean, it's just amazing to see Coop get it done on the biggest stage. And, oh, by the way, the guy can flat out defend. He took a charge as well, which Ken and I never took a charge in our lives combined. I don't think we have one between the two of us.
I would say, Matt, sorry, I'm going to jump in here
No,
because
go.
it's too exciting. You're right. Those are huge fundamental plays, right? Huge fundamental plays. How do you get somebody open? Not only open, he throws Bennett Sturtz open. He throws it in a way that Bennett's going to get it and go, right? So it's small. But for a young player to do that, he's very heady. It's really important. I can't believe that the coach of Florida Golden was debating like fouling. I understand fouling someone who's not a good shooter and putting him on the line for pressure free throws, but Sturtz is going to get the ball. So you're telling me you're going to foul Bennett Sturtz? I don't think that's going to happen. So he gets it and he gets on the run. And I really thought going into this game, Cooper, Fulgaris, and Sturtz are going to have to make shots. They're going to have to make some 3-point shots for us to hang around with a team like Florida, who I thought was just going to offensive rebound and make it really tough. And we just were gritty enough with our blocking out. And again, fundamental basketball, blocking people out so you get rebounds. Got them in foul trouble. Did we get in foul trouble? You better believe it. We were in foul trouble too. But, there's a confidence to Fulgaris. He's a highly skilled basketball player that at times looks like he's a little lost out there, throughout the whole year. If you just watch every game, he's extremely talented. He can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot. But at times you're just kind of like toughen up a little bit with that, and that rebound or handle the dribble a little bit better, or what have you. He came to play, obviously, and I think he had some family motivation too that was helping him as well, with his mother being at the game. Only the third time that his mother's watched him play a live basketball game there for Iowa. So Cooper made huge plays. Fulgaris made huge plays. Sturtz didn't have probably the offensive game that you want him to have, but is there anyone else you'd rather have the ball when the game is on the line than Ben Sturtz? And I don't think there is, because he's going to make the right play. And he did, and getting it to Fulgaris and knocked it down. So I don't know. I'm just talking because I still have this adrenaline flowing through me, guys. It's a little just so excited for them. They really did make the right plays. And part of me too, the Hawks were against like a 2-2-1 or like a 1-2-1-1 type of zone pressure for most of the second half. And you watch Sturtz not try to dribble through it ever. He always kicked it long, like even the commentators were talking about these long passes. These are scary long passes. Well, they were just kicking it, moving it around, and then they get it to Sturts, and then they'd run their offense. So Florida goes man-to-man, goes for this goofy steal, and now Sturts is off to the races for the first time really in the entire second half, even though they were pressuring. This is the first time they didn't just say, let's just try to keep them in front of us. And so that was just an odd situation. It was an odd coaching, but how the execution of the players coming out and doing it. I don't know if the coaches told them to do that, but just they're playing man-to-man, and he didn't keep them in front. So to me, that's just a not very smart play on Florida's part.
Guys, you look at it, and they get the stop after that because it's 3.9, and I thought Iowa called a timeout, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, this is the one, I won't say criticism, but the hot topic of Ben McCollum is the defensive timeouts after a big play late and all that. So I thought, and I think they were trying to, but they adjust the clock, 4.5, whatever it is. You guys are my age. We're all in our prime still, but we were old. Tyus Edney keeps coming into my head. Like my son says to me, Dad, why is it taking so long? Because they adjust the clock and then Ben calls a timeout. So it literally felt like it was a half hour in between the game-winning shot and the defensive stop. Jess, talk about that defensive sequence. I kept thinking Tyus Edney. Cale Combs did a great job walling up and get to where they needed to be. Defensively, what did you see in the last possession of the game?
Florida just really blew it over the last 3 or 4 possessions of the game. They came out in that play, if you'll rewatch it, and they ran what's called a hammer action, which the play was designed for the point guard to go coast to coast, which he did. He was driving baseline to pass to the opposite corner for a 3-point shot. That's exactly what it was set up to do. They set the screen angle wrong on the opposite side, and Bennett slipped it, and he knew what was coming. It's absolutely incredible. He did not allow himself to get screened, so he gets to the corner on the opposite side. There's nowhere to pass. Now, had that screen been set, then the roll guy probably would have been wide open for a dunk or a foul to tie the game. But it's too complicated in most of those situations, because if one thing goes wrong, you're not even going to get a shot off. So I was thinking the same thing. Spread it out, do your Tyus Edney, put your shooters on the side, let a guy attack to get downhill, kick it out, try to draw a foul. It was a gift. And then there's Tavian Banks, who, by the way, played the game of his life as well. He goes straight up without fouling, but that was a play to drive baseline, kick it to the corner for a shot or get the slip, and give Iowa's defense credit for blowing it up. Back to the press that they set up, I lost a game as a head coach at Iowa Wesleyan once over in Springfield with the exact same situation, and I'm still scarred by it. We were down by 3 with, say, 10 seconds to go in a game. We had the ball. We drew up a good play. A kid named Kyle Warner on my team hits the 3. I thought he was fouled to get a 4-point play. They didn't call it. So we're tied, call the timeout. For some reason, I'm thinking I'll set up the full court press just to slow them down, right? To keep them in front. They had a kid that blew by us like a knife through butter in 2 seconds, goes down and hits a free throw jumper. I to this day, I don't even believe it happened to this day, but I learned a lesson that you never, ever put your guys in that kind of trouble with 10 seconds. We're not talking about a Leitner play, where you're up on the ball with 2 seconds and they've got a baseball pass it. So for them to front Sturts, to be up front like that, and Coop could run the doggone baseline. You weren't going to disrupt him. And so he gets ahead, and we get a 3-on-2 to win the game. And obviously the kid on Fulgaris has to come out and attack Sturts, and Sturts makes the play, like Kent said, for the wide open 3. And then for them to run a complicated hammer play, it's backseat driving by us, but they really overthought it, and we took advantage of it.
I loved watching obviously the reactions afterwards. Some guy that was really animated throughout the game was Cooper, and you guys know him well. Uncle Kent may be down there at the bottom of the screen. And he's been on this show 3 times. He was on last Wednesday, which he's such a well-spoken, nice kid. But Caker told me he was like, he hit one of those threes and he was giving the balls dance. He was fired up. And after the game, he's doing this. I loved to see that type of energy out of Cooper. You know him better than probably anybody, Kent. Is that Cooper? Like, were you surprised to see that fire in him?
You know, here's what I'll say about Cooper. Cooper is a regimented individual. And if JR was on this, he'd say, yeah, he's not like me. Okay. Right. So we know Cooper is like, hey, I'll wake up at the same time. I'm going to eat the same thing. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go to class. I'm going to work out, and go to bed. He's very regimented. And I think he knows he puts in the time, and you can tell the surge of energy that hits him when he hits big shots, right? The tongue comes out. He's looking at the students. I've seen him do it in Carver Hawkeye, right? You can tell that he's got a little bit of that, I'm a Hawkeye. This is what I do. I put in the work. Confidence comes from putting in work. And I think that's the thing you have to teach young people. And I think videos of Kobe Bryant is helping get this out to the world a little bit. But confidence comes from shooting every day, working on your weaknesses, working on your strengths. Then you're ready to knock down the big shots when the big shots come, right? So I think he does it. I think he does the work. He's had a pretty rough go. He's had a collapsed lung. He had a pretty rough freshman season. Is he going to be healthy? Is he not going to be healthy? What's Fran's leaving? Okay, what's Cooper going to do? I mean, there was a lot going on around his life of just like, all right, what's the next step? And he just said, you know what? I'm a Hawk. I want to be a Hawk. This is what I came here to do. And it never has really been, I'm sure it's difficult at times, but it's never, he just has never gone off of that line. You know what I mean? And so you're just happy for him and proud of him. He's a highly recruited, decorated high school basketball player. And now he's doing it at the next level. And right now he's just a shooter, but I'm telling you, there's more in this kid's game. And we're going to see it as the years move on, but, he's going to get to be a better shooter, but I think you're going to see him take it off the dribble. I think you're going to see him post up. I think you're going to see him make good passes. I mean, there's just more to him, and it's going to get better and better.
I got to ask both of you. Jess Settles and Kent McCausland joining me right now and off there with Matt Randazzo. The fight in the first half with Fulgaris and Condon and first off in the Big Ten, that's just a regular play back in the day for you guys, right? That's not the
you
Big
kidding
Ten
me? That's what Jess did. Jess did this to every basketball player that came through. He was like, how can I put an elbow in this guy and make him react? How can I tie this guy up and then maybe knock him on the ground and then hit him when nobody's looking? I mean, Jakes and Jess on the same team. Are you kidding me? And we don't have replay. So there wouldn't be any discussion around any of this stuff that Jess and Jake used to get away with. And Jake, they started to watch a little bit. Settles is a little more subtle about his elbows and things. But, the fact is, I think, Dr. Tom, when we were at our best, Dr. Tom he likes playing a physical brand of basketball. He wants to, hey, people make fun of Jess's pump fake and Wade looking those pump fake. But when you pump fake and get somebody in the air, you get to bloody their nose if you want to. You get to go right into them because, well, they've jumped. So now it's their fault. And Coach Davis would be like, you better believe it. You can go bloody their nose. They jump. That's their fault. It's how Iowa basketball, I think, is. And I think Dr. Tom gets a little more respect for his up and down, pressing and running. But at his core, he was get to the free throw line, rebound, be physical. And so I'm getting all excited because what I'm talking about is you're talking about the fight, essentially with Fulgaris. That is a normal play. He got whipped to the ground, first of all, right? The kid from Florida whips him to the ground. He does kind of ball up his fist as if he's going to let it. Now, I don't know. You have to ask him. Was he thinking he wanted to punch this guy? Was he thinking he was trying to punch the ball? Was he so frustrated by the entire thing? Who knows? But the fact is, Iowa came to fight in this basketball game. And I think that just typifies what this team was all about. Manyow, Banks, they were all in there to rebound, to check out against the best rebounding team in the country. And they knew they had, their backs against the wall. And when you know that you have to go in and perform and do that against the best rebounding team in the country, then you're going to do everything you can to make that happen. And, as Coach said at the interview, they pulled him on the court and he said, well, they got a little sensitive down there. You can read lips. You know exactly what Coach Golden said. So, you got a little sensitive down there. That's when you kind of got him.
Yeah.
The old Larry Bird talking a little junk. That's when you got him. We kind of had them for a little bit. We were in their heads.
I think those in-game interviews can be dumb sometimes. I love that one. And that's what you get. You're asking a head coach after just getting into a verbal confrontation with the other coach what he thinks about what's going on. And Ben, check mark for the Sweet 16. He's good. I mean, I think it's going to help launch this thing to things maybe we've never seen. But I thought that in-game thing was huge. I think Iowa fans love that. They eat that up. They love that type of grit to steal a Dan Campbell from my Lions. I think they love that kind of thing, and they got that with the Hawkeyes last night. Jess, you look at what's to come, and it's Nebraska, and Iowa beat them in Iowa City, rushed the floor. It was that signature victory. The last game of the year was an awesome game in Nebraska, went to overtime. Not just the Sweet 16, but now you go ahead and play a rival. And we're over in this side of the state where we think, and Jess, I know to Iowa, Illinois, and they don't like each other and all that kind of stuff, but this Nebraska thing is pretty legit. They don't like each other. Your thoughts on what's to come with Nebraska on Thursday night?
I honestly think that both coaching staffs would take this game any day of the week a week ago when they started looking at the brackets. I think they are both saying this is the opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, one of these two teams is going to the Elite Eight with an opportunity to go to the Final Four. It's absolutely incredible that the win in Iowa City was critical to our success of even getting into the tournament. I mean, the computers loved us all year, but it just felt like we needed a monster win, and that was the Nebraska game. And then a classic on senior day at their place. So many Iowa storylines right in this game. Fred Hoiberg at Iowa State, Brock Linzer, their defensive coordinator, who I think is the most valuable player of the Nebraska's team. They finally started guarding. I mean, what's Price thinking about this week? I mean, that is absolutely wild. I mean, we obviously wanted him to stay. He had an all Big Ten year. I feel like Bennett is due for the monster 32.8 assists, 4 rebound game. Bennett has been really good, but he has not been great over the last month. He's been the focal point of defenses. He's been worn down. He's played his 40 minutes. Even in that game the other night, he looked like he got tired late again. I mean, who can blame him? So that is truly spectacular. I don't think we could ask for a better matchup. I think both teams feel that way, and it's just going to be a legendary game. And how much confidence do you have if you just beat Florida, who's just a spectacular team, who many people thought could win it? Like Kent said, you have to really get your mind right. You have to let yourself decompress for 40 hours or so. You do need to celebrate these. They are incredible. But, man, tomorrow morning when you wake up, you've got to eat right, get your rest, lock in for the moment of your life. And that's why we love this tournament so much. This is a legacy game.
Kent, your thoughts on that? Because the Nebraska thing is the rivalry is there. I'll come at a different angle, and they talk about Bennett playing well. I think Jess is right. He's due for a big game offensively. But I go back to the game in Iowa City especially, and the job that he did defensively against Price Stanford. I know people are going to look at Bennett offensively, but I think almost a quiet secondary story is how good he can be defensively, because as Price Stanford goes, so does Nebraska sometimes. I'm not saying he's got help around him. I get that, but he's going to be a big part of this game. Your thoughts on Nebraska?
I'm gonna channel my inner football player here or team. Maybe we can win by 3 points against Nebraska. Can we win by a field goal against Nebraska? That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? No. So I will say first of all, I'm a really big fan of Price Sanford. I think he really moves without the ball really well. I think Fred has used him extremely well. He is the type of player, and I'll compare him to Cooper Koch a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Price was his first year, he was making all the moves, but he wasn't finishing, right? Under McCaffrey in Iowa City. He gets the shot. Man, that shot looks nice, just not going in. And then the next year, a little bit better, right? Little bit better. And so I see the same things in Cooper where it's like he's getting there. He's making the move earlier in the year, but he's just not able to finish because the physicality, the quickness that you have to finish, the game hasn't slowed down to the point where you're just making plays. For Price, essentially, over time, it just started to slow down and he could just start making plays. It turns into a first-team All-Big Ten type of performer. And I think we're going to see the same thing from Cooper at some point. He's going to keep maturing through that. And I look at this, the Bennett Sturts piece, he obviously is a supremely talented individual and at times can really have huge games. I do think you get to this point. I was kind of hoping he'd have that 30-pointer last night, somehow, some way. Bland is a very good defender, and I think made it pretty tough. We see that from certain teams when Boswell for Illinois really made it tough on Bennett Sturts. There are certain players, I think, that can make it really difficult on him. And Nebraska is not going to be surprised by rescreen, top of the key. Like all that stuff is going to be on their scouting report. Whereas Florida maybe hasn't seen that all year long. So that's a little bit different too. I do think it's a collective effort. I think Banks, I think Fulgaris, I think Cooper, I think everybody's going to have to chip in on this one. And I'm gonna also just throw out at Nebraska, and I'm sorry, I don't know the names of the kid. Who's the walk-on for Nebraska that hit 2 huge threes against Iowa for Nebraska? He in the corner, right? We're essentially saying we're going to defend on this side of the floor. We're going to make it really tough for you. We're going to make you skip it to the kid in the corner. And he made 2 huge threes. And he's made 13 all year, and he made 2 against us in Nebraska. So I think the game plan is solid. Both coaches are going to try to tweak and have a couple different wrinkles, right, that maybe you haven't seen. But I think Price moving without the ball, everyone's got to be on guard because with his movement comes opportunities for others. And so you've got to have both of those things covered. I think Sturts did a fantastic job of sticking with him because he can open up the game pretty quick. He can hit 3 threes, and all of a sudden Nebraska's rolling. Nebraska, in my opinion, there's nothing super scary about them, just like there's nothing super scary about Iowa. They're both just going to grind it out and try to run their stuff and outwork you. And that's why this game is going to be, extremely fun to watch. They know each other. It's like the grudge match on a neutral floor. We won at home. They won at home. Now we get to go on a neutral floor for all the marbles to go to the Elite Eight. Like Jess said, one of these teams is making the Elite Eight. Nebraska hadn't won an NCAA game until this weekend, and now they got a possibility of going to the Elite Eight. Iowa coming out of nowhere, the 9th best team in the Big Ten, quote unquote, and now they got a chance. This is what the tournament's all about. I mean, this is how it happens. You sneak by somebody, and then you get to move forward, and maybe the matchups are in your favor, and maybe they're not. But the fact is, Iowa's not real fun to play against because of their style of play, and I think Florida found that out too. They're just not that fun to play against because of their defensive mentality. They'd rather get back, play 5-on-5. Let's take a shot late in the clock. Okay, let's just get back and play defense. This is what we do. And they all buy in. So that's Coach McCausland, that's his staff, getting everybody to buy into that.
It's funny because if you look at it, I think Iowa, Vegas-wise, is plus 130 to win. And then Illinois against Houston, which is, I think Houston's just so tough. They're plus 130 to win. So to get gambly on you guys, if you parlay those two together, Iowa and Illinois to win, it's plus 400. So basically 4-1 odds right now that Iowa and Illinois will play on Saturday night to go to the Final Four. Guys, if I told you in November that that Iowa and Illinois are going to play to go to the Final Four. What do you give me the odds? You would say 1 in a million, right? And it's a 4-1 chance that's actually going to happen this Saturday. But of course, first things first with Nebraska. Before I let you guys go, I think I want to wrap it up with this, because you look at this Sweet 16, and I kind of mentioned earlier, it does so much for Ben, his first season, recruiting, excitement around the program, Carver renovations, anything you want to do with the program. I think there's energy into it as well. It was different for you guys. I mean, it was, Jess, we talked on Friday, y'all cleaned out your offices. Like, when you were winning that one, it was the end of an era. Can you, either one of you guys, compare and contrast? Because while they're both awesome and they're Sweet 16s, they're almost opposites, because one you knew was kind of an end of an era, and this is probably the start of what could be a really fun era in Iowa City.
Yeah, we were part of the lame duck season, which was just bizarre the entire year. We had a really good team. We had the monster win at Kansas where Kent hit 10 threes, and we broke their 80-plus game winning streak. We had the comeback against Arkansas. We cleaned out our lockers. When we went into this game that these young guys are going into now, we were playing against the national champs. We were playing against NBA players and Rip Hamilton and Khalid El-Amin, and the odds were heavily against us. We knew we would have to play extremely well, and they would have to be off a little bit. And we played just okay, and they weren't off. And we didn't get it done. So it's a totally different scenario. First year coach, no question. This win has just brought everybody out of the woodwork, and a lot of people have just been apathetic toward the program for many years now. And so, because you have to win in March, you absolutely have to win in March if you want to take that next step to becoming a great program. And they did it. So they won in March. It's been 27 years. It's been way too long. So it's remarkable how defense, if you look at all the games that were played over the weekends, defense gives you a chance to win. It just does. It's really hard to win 3 or 4 in a row in a shootout. As awesome as it looks, as cool as the score is, you have to be able to get stops and lock down. So, we were kind of living out of our suitcases. Everybody had cleaned everything out. Our coaching staff didn't even have their offices. And I always thought it would be just fascinating. Had we made it to the Final Four, what would have happened to the program, right? Because don't you have to come begging Coach Davis to come? You can't get rid of a guy if you get to the Final Four, right? Oh. And and then the program has somewhat struggled ever since, as far as great success in March with some really horrific losses, in games that we should have won with some good teams. So, hey, good luck to the guys. They have an opportunity to make history. It's kind of the Big Ten Invitational. Kent's going to be there. Houston is absolutely a monster. They are really, really good. And yet on a one-day turnaround, they probably have never played a team like Iowa, who just does not allow you to play the way you want to play. And our forwards, what they did against Florida, I just can't believe it. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And Houston's got some forwards as well. And obviously Illinois is one of the best teams in the country. So congrats to Bennett Sturts and McCollum and the boys. Wow, that was a phenomenal night for the entire state.
Iowa's in the Sweet 16, boys. Go get those short shorts back out. Put them on today. Go play some pickup basketball or something just to relive the glory days. Can't enjoy Houston? Yeah.
I can't. You got to jump in. I mean, you throw me and Jake's under the bus, and you don't even mention Kingsbury, who had you in figure 4 leg locks in the locker room.
You know what?
What?
There was this whole drama of Urach getting thrown to the ground at the end of the first half. You guys remember this?
Yeah.
So the kid from Florida runs right in the back of him and knocks him down to the ground. No call. It's kind of like as if it didn't even happen, right? And I turned, and my son, 7th grader, he is just losing his mind, and my wife losing her mind. That's unbelievable. I can't believe that they didn't do anything, and McCollum's losing his mind about it too. And I just kind of waited to the commercial, and I go, you know what? That was every day at practice for me as a freshman. You just get thrown around, and no coach is calling a foul. So Kingsbury was one of them. Settles is another one. They just manhandling, throwing me around onto the ground. And no, it's as if nothing has even happened. And I was just kind of like, that's life as a freshman. I'm sorry to say, but that's just the way it goes. So, hey, yes, did Kingsbury, put a couple elbows into my face? Yeah, but it toughened me up, and I think that was good for me.
You live to see another day. Hey, right. Jess, life is good when you're getting a congratulatory text from Ked Prince at like 9 o'clock at night. I mean, if Mr. Illinois is congratulating you, something's right with the world. So a wild night, an awesome Sunday night for Iowa. Guys, I appreciate you doing this. We'll catch up again soon. And as always, go Hawks. Thanks, boys.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
All right. That is Kent McCausland and Jess Settles joining us on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Those two, the last team before now to make it to the Sweet 16. And now, like Kent mentioned, he's heading down to Houston to check out the game coming up on Thursday. We're not done talking Iowa yet. We've been blessed to have Nicholas Baer join us all season talking after games. We got the Bear Cage talking more Iowa. Illinois later in the show, Mike Cagley from the Illini guys to talk about Illinois and a whole bunch more. It's a super busy but fun Monday right here on OTA. We'll be right back. For over 65 years, Lindquist Ford has proudly served the Quad Cities, and they're just getting started. Looking for a new ride? Check out a healthy mix of new and quality pre-owned vehicles ready for you. Need service? Skip the waiting room. With free pickup and delivery and mobile service, they come to you. No delays, no hassle. From routine maintenance to a full-service collision repair shop, it's fast, friendly, reliable, and always transparent. Lindquist Ford, serving the Quad Cities since 1959. Experience the difference today.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off Day with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities, a Sweet 16 type of Monday in the Quad Cities. All three of our area teams heading to the Sweet 16. On Saturday, it was Illinois clinching and punching their ticket to the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years. Iowa State did it on Sunday afternoon. They're back in the Sweet 16 for the third time in 5 years. But the surprising one, the one we've been talking a lot about this morning, the Iowa Hawkeyes back in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999. And I'm trying to figure out, we're joined now by former Hawkeye Nicholas Baer. Nicholas, how old were you in 1999?
I was 3 years old. Pretty much 3 years, yeah. So
basically, this is basically the first Iowa Sweet 16 in your lifetime. Watching that game last night, just your headline of watching it, and it's been something that you as a player heard a lot about as well. Iowa is in the Sweet 16. What are your thoughts?
Just off the cuff, how about those Iowa Hawkeyes, Matt? How about them? And I think for me, I'm really excited just like for the program in general. I know this has been something that has been a goal for a while. So really thrilled that, getting a chance to play on a big stage here in the Sweet 16 for sure. But that the game itself to, go and take down Florida in Tampa, I think adds a little bit of an extra flavor to it. But I had a lot of people kind of, reach out, just, people I hadn't heard from in a couple of years reaching out, just about the game and everything. So pretty special win and pretty proud to be a Hawkeye for sure.
Nicholas, I joked with some people last night. I feel like I got more text messages last night than I did when I had all 4 of my kids combined, like when they were born. I mean, it was just crazy. And you mentioned like people that you hadn't talked to in a while that were reaching out and talking about it. We talked last week when the brackets came out, you and Tom Kakert, and we liked the first round matchup with Clemson, which, by the way, the Clemson game seems like 2 weeks ago, but we liked that matchup, and we were realistic. Like, man, Florida's waiting. The number 1 seed is waiting. I think we talked a lot during the year that you wanted to get out of that 8-9 game because you didn't want to have to deal with these 1 seeds early on. Going into the game, what were your expectations? And I thought they could win. Watching watching TCU play on Saturday, and I know they lost by 20, but that was close early second half. I felt like Iowa could win. I didn't think it would look like that. Your thoughts on the way it maybe looked last night?
Yeah, I think going into the game, I thought the path to win would be, slow down the game a little bit, minimize, kind of like some of their possessions. I would have thought, okay, Bennett Sturts probably need 20 plus, need him to hit like 4 or 5 threes, need to really shoot the ball well and try and battle on the glass. But to your point, Matt, like this win wasn't all that fluky and it wasn't perfect either. I think sometimes you look at games where maybe there's an upset against a 1 seed and you look at the box score and it's, the team that won hits 15 threes, shoots 70% from 3, or an off shooting night for Florida, which they had. But I mean, some big time performances across the board between Tavian Banks, obviously Fulgaris, big shot late, but just kind of his offensive presence was huge. I think, Matt, the biggest thing I looked at that I was kind of concerned about going into this game was rebounding. Was just the size that Florida had with their front court, and I mean it was even on the boards, 27-27. And I think they only gave up 9 offensive rebounds, which this Florida team averages about like getting I think they get like 35 to 40% of their misses back, which is unbelievable. And
yeah.
Iowa, even being a little bit undersized, like really battled and minimized their second chance points. So I guess it's not a perfect, game of perfect by any means, but this team found a way, which is really special.
Nicholas, I want to talk about the rebounding because you did your fair share of rebounding at a high level. And you look at, I think that was the big thing. One of my kids said to me yesterday, Dad, I know they keep on talking like they're so much bigger, but like, I think they went 6'11", 6'10", 6'10". And what's Iowa? 6'10", 6'9", 6'9", maybe 6'8". And yes, I know that's a difference, but it's not like it was me out there trying to rebound. A lot of rebounding, and you, I think, can speak to this, is positioning, blocking out, but also desire, want, all of those kind of things. Can you talk about you mentioned them playing well inside. Yeah, they were undersized, but they just brought an energy and intensity to the rebounding and to the glass that they have all year, Nicholas. Like, that's one thing early in the season we both worried about. Like, I don't know if this team's big enough to be, an upper echelon Big Ten team or to do the things they want to do. They've proven me wrong. What is it that you have to do to be able to compete with big dudes like that in the glass?
I think it's not necessarily how big you are, it's how big you play. I think this team plays big. Like, I think I was looking, there are a couple times Cooper Koch going up against Condon, Condon's about 7 feet tall, and he's, Cooper's giving up some height there, but like forced him to catch it out wide, not letting him get like deep post position, really making him work. And I think the thing that I was really impressed with was I think Florida did miss a few of those bunnies up and close, and I think what Iowa did a really nice job was kind of gang rebounding. Manyav's in there, Fulgaris is in there, Sturts is in there, Combs is in there. Like, it felt like it would go up and it would kind of like, there'd be like a shuffle or like scrum down below, and all of a sudden we have the ball. And I feel like, it'd be a team like Florida, like you got to come up with some of those 50-50 balls, 50-50 rebounds, and really get that inside positioning on the glass. So I was really impressed. I think we actually had, the same amount of offensive rebounds as Florida did too. So, attacking the offensive glass as well. But that was a big concern for me going in, and they just, passed that test with ease for sure.
Former Hawkeye Nicholas Baer joining us on Off There with Matt Randazzo. Nicholas, we're almost bearing the lead because we got to talk about the end. And it's funny because, again, I have a million kids, so I always reference my kids. But I think it was Charlie that said to me, like, or somebody said, this feels like, and I can't remember what game they said, but I'm like, this game feels like Michigan. Or this game feels like maybe Nebraska, the game that you were at, the last game of the year, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But it felt like one of those games that they were going to be close, play well, but maybe not get over the hump at the end. They get over the hump at the end. I think those games helped. What's going through your mind? Let's go back to 8.6 seconds to go. Down 2. I think that was the big play, or obviously what everybody's going to talk about. What did you expect? Was there anything you were surprised about when it comes to that sequence with Fulgaris hitting the 3?
So two things jumped out to me on that play. So 8.9 seconds. I'm thinking get Sturts the ball on the run, which we did phenomenally well. One of the things I've noticed about this Iowa team a couple times this year is sometimes if we have an extra timeout late, getting the ball into the front court and calling timeout. Like there seems to be kind of a desire, like, okay, I'd rather have 6 seconds in the front court, run a play from the side instead of, maybe facing a stacked defense. What I was not anticipating was the defense that Florida ran out there. Like they decided to press, have a guy on the ball, and let Bennett Sturts get behind them on the run. So I looked at it. Within 1 second, Iowa has a 3-on-2 with 7 seconds left. At that point, like all thoughts of a timeout are out the window. Like he's like going, and I think I was really surprised by why Florida set up that way. Like typically, you want to just keep the ball in front of you, turn him a couple times, likely try to get the ball out of Sturts' hands. But I want to give credit to Cooper Koch for making the inbounds pass. I say this as a guy who was usually responsible for inbounding the ball late in like those situations where you got to get up the floor. Like it's an underrated part of the play, but like hits Sturts in stride and gets him off and going. Kind of like hitting a receiver in stride to go, down the field type of thing. So I was really impressed with that. But then from there, Fulgaris in the corner, like step back behind, the 3-point line, like that's gonna be a special shot and an Iowa lore forever. I remember when Sturts was going, I was just like, just go to the rim, keep attacking, and then obviously get a wide open shot and he knocked it down. So pretty special. I guess one thing I was looking at too, I thought Sturts might have been trying to call timeout potentially as well, but it looked like, obviously you get the ball in a corner three, who's going to say no. So pretty big time shot for sure. Those are my just thoughts. Matt, what do you think?
I went back and looked because we texted last night, and you're right. He did. It was either give me the ball or it was this. It was something with his hands, like, and frantically, which you're right. I don't know what it was. I'll tell you, like what you said. The biggest things for me were you all of a sudden looked up and he had the ball, and he was ahead of 3 defenders. Like three people were behind him. It's one thing if I think putting a guy on the ball was intriguing because that made it so that other guy was back. But obviously you want to try, if you're going to be up, you maybe be up a little bit more. But like that was the big thing, was to get downhill. And then when the shot goes down, and we talked about it earlier in the show, Alvaro talking about it after the game, he said to Bennett going on the court, get it to me, I'm going to make it. And I think he was the big thing. I think when you look at it, he made his first shot of the game, which always feels good. He was involved with the fight, which we'll talk about in a second as well. But when he's good, Iowa's really good, and he was good and made the big shot when he needed to make it. My first thing, Nicholas, and we've talked about this several times. I know Bennett was trying to call a timeout after they made the shot. Now, it was a clock situation, which kind of nullified anything anyways. But I was a little surprised by that because with how frantic they were and all of those kind of things, and 3.9, I would have loved to see him go. Let's go to that play then. I don't know what the Florida guy was thinking, getting to the rim and trying to pass, but you saw him come out of the break, and you'll watch McCullum moves Cooper to mid-court kind of by the scorer's table. And it was a good move. I don't think it slowed him up too much, but he knew that's where the ball was going. They were going to catch it in stride and go. So I think that was a way to maybe bother him a little bit there. Your thoughts on the last play of the game and the defensive stop that was? I just kept on looking for the red light. That's all I kept looking for, was like, turn on red light. Your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, first, I think I agree with you about having Cooper up there. I think what ideally he wanted was to have Combs cut him off, and then Lee is, kind of turned back into Cooper and kind of like, just slowing him down a little bit. That didn't exactly happen. He got around the outside. What I noticed was, if we're thinking like 3.9 seconds, you got like 3 dribbles and a shot, pretty much. He got to the rim. I did notice there's a hammer screen for how to cut to the rim. His cut was actually wrong. He went to the opposite block, like to the middle. I think if Houck actually goes to that like same side block that Lee was expecting him to, he might have had a layup. So that's the thing that I noticed was towards the end of the season and the games here, late game execution is huge, but to not get a shot there, that's the true crime. Like, you have to be able to get something on the rim. And I was the same way as you, Matt. Like, I saw the pass was kind of scrum. I was just like, buzzer sound. sounded, no fouls, celebrate. Like that's when I was like, all right, it's real. Like there's nothing else. Like we're going to the Sweet 16. So pretty special.
For me, I'm an old guy, and like not just with the Hawkeyes, but an Iowa basketball has been heartbreaking in the past. But like I'm a Lions fan, for Christ's sake. Like I mean, it's been rough for me to begin with, and I didn't allow myself to think they were going to win until the buzzer went off. And I've seen so many celebration videos on social media. And even one of my kids was like, Dad, I wish somebody would have shown that or like recorded us. And it was cool. It's a moment you remember with the kids. I'd probably got a little too fired up at some point. So probably good not to have it recorded. What was your reaction as a former player? As a kid, like, did you feel like a kid? Like, and what can you compare it to? Like, for me, I can go back to, 99. I can go back to the Final Fours and the 87, all those kind of things. What are the things that, like, what was your reaction as an Iowa fan growing up? And then what's the other moment in Iowa basketball that you can compare it to? Is this the best moment for Iowa basketball for you? Obviously taking away being a player, because that's obvious being on the floor, but is this the best Iowa moment in your lifetime? I
think for me, like the first thing I just kind of felt was like pride, like elation, right? Like for the program, for the university to get a chance to do this, right? On a big stage like this. I think for me, like definitely it's kind of different, like obviously being an alum and being like, a former player and like being a fan as well. I think it was kind of a similar, I felt similar to like how I played. Like when it was like when we beat Cincinnati and Columbus, like, get a chance to advance. When we beat Temple to advance, like that, it was kind of like some of those similar feelings, maybe not quite as intense. Obviously, like you have kind of the adrenaline going of, actually being on the court and everything. But
sure.
I think that's what resonates for me. But I think, yeah, I mean, for this program, for this university, a huge moment in March and something that will be really special here down in Houston.
I want to talk a little more about Alvaro before we talk about Nebraska coming up. Can we talk about that first half fight and what it was and what your thoughts were? And there's a Ben McCullum nugget that I want to get to as well. But your thoughts on the fight that was in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, jump ball, two guys rolling around. I thought kind of initially kind of like ripped it down after, so I know that's not ideal. I think I saw in the like official's explanation after that the reason that Alvaro wasn't ejected is not because basically he tried to punch but just didn't. Like he hit the ball, like it was like a closed fist. When I saw it live for the first time, I was like, oh boy, I think he might be gone. Like that was my kind of like first initial reaction. And again, kind of the heat of the moment, not sure exactly what's going on there, but I think he's fortunate that he basically like just made contact with the basketball, like because I think if there's contact anywhere else, like it's a pretty easy flagrant too. So I thought it was fortunate, but also like I think it kind of I was talking to my friends, like it felt like kind of like a sleepy first half for Florida, and then all of a sudden became like a hostile crowd energy atmosphere, which I think is fun too. I think that did play a role. But Matt, like, did you expect that them to come back with like a flagrant 2 and now we're down one of our better bigs?
I thought the same thing you did. Live, I was like, uh-oh. And then there was the first angle they showed, and I was like, and then like they showed a second angle, and I was like, well, you could tell he was just trying to go for the basketball and kind of just punch it out. I thought it was late. I thought the whistle was well done before that's, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. That's a good old fashioned hip toss. And I thought that was a bit much. I thought that it muddied up the game because Iowa went in there and punched them in the face early, and they wanted to be tougher. They wanted to be more physical. It's Big Ten basketball. They played at that style, which they want to. SEC's not down with that. And I thought it like dictated. I thought it took Florida out of their game. I thought there was a flagrant 1 at the end of the half with the guy coming in, Chuck and Urick at the very end. But I think it took them. And then the coaches is what I want to get to, because one, Ben McCullum just led the Iowa Hawkeyes to the Sweet 16. He's good. Like check mark. Like that's. But I thought the way he was during the game yesterday almost endeared him more to Iowa fans. And obviously the results, the big thing, but to do the in-game interviews, which I think are interesting, because here you are after a very intense situation, and being on the media side of things, you're allowed to talk to a coach that's pretty fired up. And for him to like basically said, he's like, well, they got sensitive over there, and like almost kind of call them out in a bit. And then there was the back and forth between coaches. Have you been part of something like that? Do coaches normally, is that a frequent thing that they like exchange words or talk at all? Or is that something that almost never happens and you were surprised to see?
I wouldn't say it never happens. Like, I think it happens when the game's getting chippy and getting intense, and if there's some type of consternation around the game that's going on. I think previously the in-game interviews I thought were kind of dumb in the past because it's just like a lot of coach speak. Hey, we got to clean up the boards. We got to do this. Like, okay, awesome insight, thanks. And then obviously this, like, I think it was a really good insight here, like into like the moment of the game, the heat of the game, like where the energy and emotions are. And I think it was actually a really good kind of look into the game there that Coach McCausland provided. So this team battled really hard, and I think that was reflected both on the court and in some of the conversations outside of it with some of the coaches going at it.
Former Hawkeye Nicholas Baer joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. The Iowa Hawkeyes in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999. Still seems weird to say. You were in Lincoln for the last game of the season, the overtime game. Obviously, you were locked into the signature victory for Iowa and the court swarming and all that when they beat Nebraska in Iowa City. I think it's a fantastic storyline. Obviously, that's what everybody loves this time of year. Two teams that almost did it in very similar ways. If you go back to Nebraska, they get a bucket late and then they have to hold off with a defensive set, and it's something they hadn't won a NCAA basketball tournament game before this week. So your thoughts when Nebraska, Iowa. Let's do rivalry first and storyline, and then we'll go to the X's and O's. But when you see Nebraska, Iowa, no love lost there. I think it was Pat Anger who tweeted this morning that it's ironic because Iowa is a 9 seed and Nebraska is a 4 seed, and the Iowa football team beat Nebraska by 94 points this year, which is obviously not the case, but there's that rivalry there. Your thoughts when you see Nebraska, Iowa, Part 3?
First off, that sounds about right for Pat, so that checks out. Yep. I think, it's a rubber match here, right? Like really good, like a good game, tough fought, low scoring game, I think 59-52 or 57-52 in Carver. And then, I had a chance to be at the overtime game, in Lincoln, and, really another tightly contested contest. And I think the thing that's interesting for me, obviously a ton of, storylines between, just the Iowa, Nebraska rivalry, but also just like, where these programs are at right now. Kind of first time for Iowa in the Sweet 16 in a while, first time ever for Nebraska. One of these teams is going to be in the Elite Eight, which is going to be special. You have kind of the, obviously Price Stanford being a former Iowa guy going to Nebraska. Like there's no shortage. I'm sure the media is going to be just eating all this up. There's no shortage of storylines. I think as it relates to actual game, like I think one thing I think is going to be really important that we haven't seen in these first two games is I don't think we've really seen the best from Bennett Sturts here these past couple games in terms of, shooting, scoring, that type of thing. So I think getting him freed up, Nebraska did a pretty good job of bottling him up in the last couple of games. So how are we going to kind of free him up? But Matt, I'd be kind of curious to get your thoughts on this too. Like, Fulgaris has been huge. He had 14 points last two games in the tournament against Nebraska. He's had 7 points at Carver, 6 points on the road. Like, I think he's kind of the X factor for getting either to the rim, scoring, like kind of loosening up this offense a little bit. Like, who are you looking at for, kind of some of the more offensive firepower in this game? This is going to be a tough.
You kind of mentioned it. I think we haven't talked about Cooper yet, and I think he hit some big shots, and he was energetic. I didn't know because I wasn't there, but Tom Caker told me on our podcast yesterday he kind of did the old ball dance after one of the threes, going down after the court. So I didn't know the young fella had it in him. So he's been really big. But you're right with Alvaro. And it's funny because you look at the last couple games scoring and the last couple weeks, and then yesterday they have 4 guys in double figures, Nicholas. That's the difference between this team now and this team a month ago. It was trying to figure out who was going to be that guy. Tavion was special. And I know people got after him about missing free throws, which is rare for him. And I understand that, but my goodness, you're not in that game without Tavion. But I think Alvaro is big. I'll flip it around to you and say, like, obviously they did a good job with Bennett last game. I thought Bennett was special on Price at Carver Hawkeye Arena. I think Bennett's defense is the biggest X factor of this game, and he always plays it. I'm not saying if he but if he can do because I'll argue that when people say that Iowa is Bennett Sturts and then a bunch of other players, I'll argue that Nebraska now Mast is really good and they have some nice pieces, but man, they go as Price Stanford goes sometimes, and then that opener hit 7 threes, made big shots in the other game as well. I think Bennett on price, and probably vice versa, is the storyline of maybe where this one goes. Your thoughts?
I think so. And looking back to the last 2 games that they played, I think we've kept Price below his average, and they've kept Bennett below his average. And you kind of look, and in Lincoln, it was Hoiberg had 15, Jacobson had 15. Jacobson, a guy who averages 3 or 4, gets 15. It's kind of more of the role players who are maybe playing a bigger role. I think even Cale Combs had a massive game, in Lincoln. Obviously hitting a big shot late, and then Cooper Koch hitting 6 threes. So it's kind of, as much as it is about those two, sometimes I think as the game's going to go along, and as this game kind of goes along a little bit, it's going to be a bit more about who can kind of step up that maybe you might not expect, some unexpected heroes perhaps. So I'm sure it'll take a village, but I'd imagine those two are definitely the top of the scouting reports for sure.
What will this week be like for Iowa fans? And we kind of joked maybe earlier in the year about some big games, and it's easier to go to work the next day when Iowa wins and talk on a show like this when Iowa wins and all that kind of stuff. What will this week be like? And it's not just Iowa playing Texas Tech, you know what I mean? Or somebody like that in the Sweet 16. It's Nebraska. What will this week be like? And you can't script it any better, Nicholas. It's Iowa, Nebraska. If they win, I think they'll probably get, and we'll talk Illinois here in a little bit on the show, but they're going to get either Illinois or Houston. They could go Nebraska, Illinois to get to the Final Four. This is stuff that storybooks are written about. This is crazy stuff.
I mean, you want to talk about a tough ticket to get in Houston. You got, an Illinois rabid fan base, Houston at home, Nebraska, never been to Iowa, not been in a while. It's going to be a full arena, and it's going to be a madhouse for, both games there. So I think for this week, it's going to be special. And I was texting with a couple of my buddies, almost kind of some of them, more like my high school buddies, kind of wishing that it was a Texas Tech or a team that maybe, isn't as, familiar with Iowa. Right. But it's also rivalries will make college athletics special. And especially getting a chance to play in a big stage, for a chance to get to the Elite Eight makes it special too. So just setting us up for more triumphs or more heartbreak either way. That's what makes it fun, Matt.
Nicholas, Thursday night's going to be tough on the nerves, on the stomach, and all those kind of things as well. Always appreciate your time. Iowa, Nebraska in the Sweet 16. I'll be bugging you again soon, my friend. Hopefully, let's talk again on Friday about an Elite Eight matchup with somebody. Does that work?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you. Thanks, bud.
All right, go Hawks.
All right, that is Nicholas Baer joining us on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. It's been great all season, giving insight. He nailed an Indiana game. I'll give him that all season long. But to see Nebraska and Iowa both do what they did this past weekend and now play each other in Houston in the Sweet 16. We talked a lot of Hawkeyes today. Obviously, the women play tonight, and that's a big game. The Illinois women play tonight, which is a big game as well. The Illinois men are in the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years. We'll have Mike Cagley from the Illini guys up next to talk a lot of Illini basketball. It's a Sweet 16 March Madness Monday right here in the Quad Cities. We'll be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hey, Quad City parents, tired of the same old weekend routine?
Welcome back to Off Day with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. Oh, there's plenty to talk about on this Monday, especially when it comes to college basketball, because in our area, 3 teams, all 3 Quad City area teams of local interest are going to the Sweet 16, and that includes the Fighting Illini. They punched their ticket to the Sweet 16 on Saturday night with a victory in the round of 32. And here to join me to talk more about it is Mike Cagley from the Illini Guys. Mike, first and foremost, congratulations. Big Ten power, man. Like, this is crazy. What, 6 teams heading to the Sweet 16?
Oh, it ain't your daddy's Big Ten anymore. This team, a bigger conference has forced more teams to invest in NIL. They've had to get even better coaches. You've got a conference here that when you listen to the coaches talk, and they talk about how tough it is from scouting and what they have to do to deal with each other. It's a meat grinder, but you're finding out when the Big Ten gets in other games that meat grinder has a real beneficial effect. Iowa down the stretch against Florida didn't even look remotely phased, looked like just another game for them. And if you would have said, you've got a team that hasn't been to the tournament for a few years and hasn't been to the Sweet 16 for, 26, 27 years.
Yeah, 1999.
And here you've got them playing against the defending national champs, and it was like no big deal. I thought I agreed with Charles Barkley. They dominated, or at least played better for 85% of the game. Mm-hmm. They look like the team that was the higher rated team. Obviously Coach McCausland has done a great job. He's transitioned these guys really well, but that's not the script that people thought. But if you're in a league where you have to bang heads with Dusty May and Tom Izzo and Matt Painter and Brad Underwood and the cast of characters there, you get pretty good pretty quick, or you get out.
Yeah, no, Mike, it's crazy because we're going to talk Illini. People are probably listening to this going, shut up, Randazzo. We're not talking about Iowa. It's time to listen about the Illini, and we will. But you mentioned it. Like, that game felt to me like the Michigan-Iowa game where, Michigan's looked awesome this weekend, and they're one of the best teams in the country. Illinois fans saw how good they were. Iowa took them down to the wire, and it felt like, all right, this is that Michigan game. Can they make the shot instead of miss the shot? And they got that job done, and they're going to the Sweet 16. Illinois going there as well. They beat VCU. Let's talk about that game itself. And the weekend was dominating. Obviously, the way they played in round 1 was really impressive against Fran McCaffrey and Iowa, and then Penn, excuse me. And then to play well against VCU, and it was a different person. Like, every game, it's somebody different, Mike. And if you're an Illini fan, that's a good sign because you don't know which guys are going to beat you on Illinois right now.
Yeah, you have Merkovich and Wagler are leading the team, 2 freshmen. Probably flip the order, but nonetheless, these 2 freshmen are the engines that make it go. And you could point to Merkovich, and when he plays well, Illinois 17, 18-1 or something, 18-2. And he had a rough game for him. Obviously, most freshmen, if you can play in the NCAA and get 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists from your power forward, you're pretty happy. But that was a rough game for him. And Stojakovic turns into Superman and is the guy that we saw early in the season who used his first step, which is devastating, to get this team that's quicker than the Illini playing back on their heels, which then allowed some outside shooting. The team was making the extra pass. But more importantly, Illinois was playing defense. They ran the team off the three-point line, and they defended the basket and did the rim protection that you need. If Illinois plays defense like that, they are hard to beat because eventually they're going to make shots very similar to Iowa, but they're a lot bigger than Iowa. So if they do a little bit of rebounding and they also went inside, they took 24 threes instead of the 31, 38, type of things. They didn't give, when they were up by 12, instead of doing a lame brain three with 22 seconds left in the shot clock, they got the ball inside, got a layup or got a rebound, and then a three, passing the ball back out. And it made a big difference for this team, but it all really was keyed by the defensive end. And then that fueled everything else.
Yeah, Mike, I get analytics. I really do. I understand them. I understand the 3-point shot, and Illinois, they figured it out as well. But to get inside, even to get a touch inside and then kick it back out, the ball looks better. The shots go down more often when you at least get a post touch or get in the lane, get a dribble drive kick out, and it looks so much better for Illinois, and they did a great job with that. Mike Cagley from the Illini guys joining me right now and off there with Matt Randazzo. Mike, you look at it, and in the second half, they pull away. Defensively, they looked really good as well. Kind of talk about what you saw on that end of the floor, and then also just big picture, it's a Sweet 16 for Illinois, and it's almost expected. It's amazing how Illinois on Saturday night clinches the Sweet 16 berth, and it's their second in 3 years. And it's like, okay, this is what we expected. Everybody turned their focus to Houston, and we will hear in a second as well. Iowa wins for the first time in 27 years or whatever, and it was nuts. It's hard to get to a Sweet 16. Brad Underwood and company deserve some credit for getting there for 2 of the last 3 years. Your thoughts on that? Because it shouldn't be slept on. Trust me, Iowa fans will tell you it shouldn't be slept on. It's hard to do.
Yeah, Underwood, he basically runs into a lot of challenges from a small but vocal group of fans who think Illinois should have won the national title or something. And I don't think a lot of there's a segment of Illinois fans who don't understand what you're dealing with when you're looking at the NIL machine of Duke or Kentucky and Indiana, even though some of theirs is paying for bad coaches, you've got to have the dollars to compete with Kansas and those other teams. But Brad Underwood has now got there 2 of 3 years. This team is on a 6-year NCAA streak. Would have been 7 because of COVID. So they're rolling, and this team is really going to what I would call Henson levels. I think Henson's level was pretty good, but he had that Final Four in there. I'm not certain if you were to the only era that I think would be a little bit higher than that would be the 3 years of Self and the first 3 years of Weber, when Weber had Self's players. And that would be probably the peak. But Brad Underwood's got him real close. The crazy thing about Brad Underwood is that he is willing to strip down the machine every year and try to figure out what he's got. So when a Morez Johnson, can make double the money at Michigan, most coaches would whine and complain. Dabo Sweeney, he would have 16 different press conferences complaining about tampering. And Underwood just kind of goes, well, he made it, he's a good kid, made a decision. Now we got to do what we need to do. And he just goes to work, and you've got Orlando Antigua and Jeff Alexander who are out there beating the bushes, literally in the Balkans, to find players all over the planet. And they're getting guys to play the type of ball they want. I think the interesting thing is when Under was looking next year, I think he's going to go for just a smidge more athleticism. It's hard to get a guy and say, look, I need somebody who's going to shoot like Chris Mullin from the three, but be as athletic as Michael Jordan. There's a few guys like that, but not very many, and they cost a lot of money. They go to Duke and Kentucky. But you've got an opportunity here for this team to prove that analytics does something. But again, it's not the offensive end of the court that really defines their success, because you can tweak the stuff on the offensive end. They've got to play the defense. And since February 1st, they're the third best offense in college basketball and the 28th best defense. Well, that puts you in that range of national title, because I think the best or the worst a team has been in the national title last 25 years is 31st in defense. So Illinois has an opportunity, but if they can ratchet it up like they did against VCU, they look like they were playing. Some Lehigh type of team or Nowhere State directional university. And part of it was because of the injury early on to Lewis, and that's unfortunate. Nobody ever wants to see a good player get hurt. But the intensity level was there the whole game defensively, and it makes a difference. Now, can they do it 2 games in a row against arguably the best defensive team over the last 5 years in the country? It's going to be a test for the Illini, but they have to figure out what advantages do we have and how do we take what the defense gives us. And Houston does not have Illinois' size. So how can you make them pay for not having that size?
Mike Cagley from the Illini Guys joining us right now and Off There with Matt Randazzo. It is Houston next, as you mentioned. And you look at it, they're 5 miles from home, 2 miles from home, whatever it is. They're in Houston. When I was filling out my brackets, and I like Illinois and Iowa State, and I told people the hardest things I had to do was pick Michigan over Iowa State, and I actually picked Houston over Illinois, and it's simply because of where they're at. How big of a deal is that? You're going to be down at the game. You're a Lone Star State guy. How big of a deal is it to have that crowd there? We saw it with Nebraska. You saw it with Florida. I mean, it makes a difference. Nebraska stuff was crazy. Like, I don't like Nebraska fans, but hats off to them and what they did. How big of a deal is it that they're playing in Houston on Thursday night with a trip to the Elite Eight on the line?
Well, you'd love to play them in, Chicago or St. Louis. And that really goes to the fact Illinois, struggled a little bit down the stretch. If they could have converted a couple of those games and had a couple wins, let's say they beat Wisconsin and beat Michigan State. Now you're a 2 seed and you're in St. Louis. St. Louis, Chicago, I'd be in Chicago, and didn't happen that way. That's why you have a regular season. Houston got those wins. They got the Houston area. It is what it is. Now Illinois has to go beat them there. Illinois has had some tough games over the years playing teams in their home court or right next to it. Illinois famously, you can't play a game in your home court anymore because of the Rupp Arena, where Illinois missed a trip to the Final Four, losing to Kentucky back in 83, 84, that era. But, this is a tough draw. But, Illinois plays a pretty tough schedule. They played, I think they played maybe 7 or 8 of the Sweet 16 teams. So they've got, they've played a tough schedule, and now they're going to have to, play a rough game. But, Iowa didn't say, we don't want to play. You get a list of Big Ten teams. Iowa doesn't get to say, well, we're not going to play them on the road. So, it is what it is. But this is a very good Houston team. The interesting thing about them is, as good as they are, they probably aren't quite where they were the last 3 years. So Illinois has to have a good game, and they can't afford one of those games where they shoot 40 and hit 20% of them. because Houston will run them out of the court. They'll run them right out of the game.
What keys for you looking ahead to that game, and they're so strong and tough inside, but Illinois is longer. They're just bigger than everybody. They are. Houston does a great job on the boards, but Illinois is just bigger than almost every team. Now, maybe not a Florida,
other than Michigan,
but they don't have to worry about a Florida because of Sunday night. What are the keys in your mind to see Illinois beat a Houston and get their way to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, they're going to have to contain the dribble penetration of the Houston guards. Illinois struggled with that. You saw it with Boyd of Wisconsin, fears of Michigan State. So you're going to have to stop that. You're going to have to control the boards. In particular, you're going to have to make sure that Houston doesn't get a lot of offensive rebounds. And then I think they need to go inside, and what you talked about, inside out for their offense, not outside in. I coached AAU basketball for almost 20 years, and trust me, when you're running an offense and you get the pass coming from the lane and your shoulders are square to the basket and you can step into it, these guys are really good at knocking those down. Versus, dribbling up and I think I'm kind of open now. I'm going to launch one. It's just a little bit different motion. Although Iowa's big, down the stretch that he got a little bit of the rocker step in there and he was guarded well and knocked it straight down. So, you can make those now and again, but that's a harder shot than if your defense collapses a little bit because somebody's on the inside. They can get you that squared shoulder look with a defender who's got to now make up ground to get to you. Illinois, if they can do those things, they'll be fine. But again, as an Illini fan, we fear the fact that, they're going to shoot 43 threes at a 23% clip. Because if that happens, that's going to be a little scary, but they can still survive that with rebounding.
You nailed it earlier in the conversation, Mike, because there's been so many times. I go back to Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament; they're up 15, like late first half, and Wisconsin goes on a 12-0 run, and I watched Illinois shoot like 2 or 3 straight 3-pointers up 15. And you nailed it earlier that like with this against VCU, they didn't settle. And sometimes I get it. I mean, take what's there, and that's the inside game. Now, mind you, it's not going to be nearly as easy inside with Houston as it was with the other ones we're talking about, but it's going to be a fantastic Thursday.
Yeah, Tugler's a good player, yeah.
Before I let you go, I put this out earlier. Iowa's plus 130 to beat Nebraska. Illinois is like plus 130 to beat Houston. So if you parlay those two together, both of them just winning, it's a plus 425-ish. So basically they're saying it's 4-1 odds that Iowa and Illinois will play each other on Saturday night with a trip to the Final Four on the line. Mike, if I told you in November that Iowa and Illinois were going to play to go to the Final Four, you would have said what, like 1 in a million? One in one. I mean, it's a crazy world to think about. That could be what we have coming up on Saturday evening.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show you, in my opinion, you have to have 3 things to be successful in college basketball and college football. You have to have a very good coach. You have to have a decent amount of NIL money. And you have to spend that NIL money wisely. So we saw Kentucky, $22 million, spending it on a guy who comes off of an ACL injury, who can't play. You see all sorts of stuff. But if you have more money, then you can make dumb mistakes and it doesn't hurt you because you've spent it on more players. But ultimately, McCollum's proven that he's all the coach that everybody thought he was. Iowa boosters have stepped up and increased the spending, and they've spent it wisely. Illinois, Brad Underwood doesn't get much respect. He's got more Big Ten wins in the last 7 years than anybody else. No coach of the year It's always like, well, Greg Gard wasn't supposed to be good this year, so we're going to give him the coaching trophy. Brad Underwood won the Big Ten title and the conference championship with Kofi and Io. He was supposed to do it, or whatever the excuse is. He doesn't get much respect as a coach, but he's a good coach. Illinois does have some NIL funds. They're probably 12th, 15th in the country. And they've spent their money fairly wisely. So now you're in a situation where these two teams that I think both you and I would have said maybe Illinois and probably Iowa's going to need a year or two under McCausland. But in the NIL era, you get the right guys, the right coach, and a little bit of money to make sure the right guys are happy. It can go places. And he put Iowa back on the map. And there was an era in the late 80s, that Iowa was expected to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten and therefore in the country. That era might be coming back. And, of course, we forget the Luka era. Hawkeyes were at the top of the Big Ten year in and year out. So Iowa's return to greatness may not be quite as far in the past as people like to think it is.
And let me leave you with this too. Actually, I got to ask you about the women real fast because they play tonight as well. But let me throw this at you too. You mentioned coaching. You mentioned NIL. You mentioned spending it wisely. How about support from athletic directors? How about Josh Whitman and what he's done at the University of Illinois? And also Beth Getz to make a decision to say, hey, we're going to make a change and we're going to go in a different direction. And that's not getting into the Fran stuff. I'm not trying to make it a thing about Fran or negative about Fran, but we know what Josh has done as Illinois. We've talked about over and over. That makes a difference to have that support, to have, I'm assuming the Iowa administration said, here's some extra money. Like, you have to rebuild it. I think they spent more than I know they spent a lot more than what they did with Fran. And that was a big change because I know that almost for a fact. So that's the kind of thing. I look at Josh Whitman and I look at Beth Getz, and they deserve a little credit for just the athletic programs. We can go to Brett Bielema. We can go to, basketball. Iowa's the same way. Let's finish with Illinois women's basketball. And another fantastic coach, a Clinton native, Shauna Green. They play tonight against Colorado to go to the Sweet 16. Excuse me, not Colorado. They beat Colorado at Vandy. Your thoughts on their victory over Colorado? And then it's a tall task tonight, but it's not one of those number one seeds. It's not. It's a 2 seed, and I think there's a step down when you come to that. What do they have to do to be successful tonight and maybe make a Sweet 16 under Shauna Green?
Look, Shauna Green is an amazing coach. You could argue that what she's done is bigger than what Underwood and even Bielema have done, because she was handed a bigger bag of doo-doo. And trust me, Illinois basketball was in a bad place with John Gross. John Gross looks like he's learning a ton at Akron, but man, he handed off a team that was a horrible roster. And of course that was before the transfer portal was, immediate eligibility. But a horrible, roster, and Brett Bielema took over, had some athletes that Lovey found, there's no doubt, but no team, no success. And it was even worse. She has been a phenomenal hire, and she has a gift, and Brett and Brad are both good guys, don't get me wrong. But what Shauna does is pretty unique. I've being executive in businesses and stuff, Shauna gives everybody she talks to thinks after they talk with her that she got up just to talk to them that day.
Mike, I'm going to hop in, but you're exactly right. She was on this show, and I remember leaving the show going, wow. And I'll take it one step further. Last year, I have my dad's golf outing up here, and she sent, we asked for a Brett Bielema football to raffle off, and they sent it up with the players, and up along with it comes an Illinois basketball shirt signed by Shauna Green. And she just happened to see that that's what that was going to. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So, and not to interrupt you, but you were 1000% correct. I think we're best friends, and she probably doesn't even remember my name right now. But she does.
Same with my encounters.
She captivates you to think that like you're the only person in the room, and you're the most important thing she has going on right now. Go ahead.
And no, she's amazing that way, and she's also fantastic with the X's and O's. And that's the part that you put those two together. You don't get those two together that often. Going back to your point on Josh, in my opinion, you don't get a good coach and you don't get good NIL without alignment with the athletic director. But more importantly, not only does the athletic director have to make some good decisions, but he or she has to go up and get alignment at the top levels of the university, which Illinois has not had ever in my lifetime. Neil Stoner ran his own ship. It was spectacular in the 80s. But as soon as anything happened, the senior administration was cutting ties and, finding 60 ways to point a finger and, wring their hands and gnash their teeth. And so Josh has found that alignment with the top, and now with a new chancellor building those relationships. You're right. That can't be underestimated. But when I talk about those three things in more detail, you don't get two of the three of them without a good athletic director. And he does that. And the other thing, I don't think he makes personnel decisions, but I think he's aware of them and probably pushes his coaches to make good ones. And he may walk through things with them like, hey, what about this? Or how did you think about that? I don't know those relationships that much, but he runs things like an executive. And I think that's where, you look at it, Underwood doesn't get into every little detail. He leaves that to his assistant coaches, and Brett Bielema runs it like an executive. Illinois has had for 50 years, Mike White was kind of the guy who did the offense, and each coach had either the offense or defense that kind of rested underneath them. And so Brett's one who runs the whole thing and lets his guys do his stuff. Brett runs it like you would expect somebody who's got a degree from Harvard Business School. Brad's very much above that, and I think Shauna is similar. So I think sometimes, maybe how Josh sets things up, he's truly hiring the right people to get what he wants done without him doing it, that's what leadership's all about.
Yeah, no, great points. I'll say this too, and then I'll let you go. Josh, and I think Beth to an extent at Iowa, they feel like that parent that if you ask them for something, they're not going to tell you no, they're going to help you figure it out. If that makes sense. If and I don't know any of this, but I feel like if Brett or Shauna or Brad needed hey, we need a little bit more here, or we need to finish this and get this done, they're not going to go, I don't know if we can do that. They're going to say, if you need it, we'll figure out a way to get it done. I think he supports the heck out of his coaches. Beth is the same way at the University of Iowa, and shockingly enough, Mike, they're both in the Sweet 16. Of course, Iowa for the first time since 1999. What were you doing in 1999, Mike? I don't know if there was internet or anything.
No, I was the national training manager for Novartis, living in Minneapolis at the time. So was still I was in that era of Clem Haskins before he got himself in trouble up there. So Minnesota had some good basketball, and of course those were the dog days of Illinois when Henson had left, and you had Kruger rebuilding the team. I guess it wasn't, the earlier 90s were a little worse, but of course Henson got hit with the BS probation thanks to Iowa's Bruce Pearl, and the Illinois was rebuilding out of that. And that's why Illinois fans, it's nothing against the Iowa players or coaches, but if you take a look at the list of players who were considering going to Illinois, who didn't go to Illinois. You know, Juwan Howard has talked about if Illinois hadn't been on probation, he would have went to Illinois. And you know, Shaq was looking at Illinois. I'm not saying he would have went, but Shaq was looking at Illinois. LaFonso Ellis looking at Illinois. You start going through Quanzo Martin. I mean, you start going through a list of those names, and Illinois gets half of them, following up Nick Anderson and Kendall Gill, et cetera. Illinois probably moves into that area where maybe where a Kansas is now or Michigan State is now. Had an opportunity, got knocked down. That's why people are so, to this day, people just hate Bruce Pearl, and I'm one of them.
It could be Iowa, Illinois on Saturday night to go to the Final Four. Mike, I appreciate you as always. Check out IlliniGuys.com. It's everything you need when it comes to Illinois athletics. Best of luck on Friday. We'll talk again real soon. And I always appreciate you, my man. Be good.
Thank you.
All right, that is Mike Cagley. And I told Mike last time I talked to him, which I think was last week, that next time he was on, we were going to talk wrestling. And now all this Sweet 16 nonsense, we can't do that. Next time Mike comes on the show, we'll be talking wrestling for sure. We got more to get to. You watch an OTA on a very busy Sweet 16-ish type of Monday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hey, I'm the Crawford guy.
Ooh, do you guys always speak at the same time?
Sorry, guys. I'll go first. You know, if you need help with your heating or air conditioning,
or electrical,
or plumbing, Crawford Company can solve your problem.
But what about your problem?
What problem?
Do you not hear yourselves? Take it from me, the Crawford lady.
And me, the Crawford guy.
Crawford is the comfort company.
Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need mobile party experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile party experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your mobile party experience today. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. A busy time of year, talking a lot of basketball today, and rightfully so. The Sweet 16 is officially set, local interest all over the place. A lot of college basketball to talk about, but tonight at the Carver Center at the Augustana College, one of my favorite events of the year. The high school seniors, some of the best in the area, will take center stage for the Iowa versus Illinois Senior Basketball All-Star event. And joining me now to talk more about tonight's event and high school basketball in general is Gary Thrapp. Gary, thanks for hopping on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to tonight and watching the kids compete.
Yeah, it should be a ton of fun. Gary, this is an event that you've recently took over. Before we get into the event itself and all those kind of things, this was the pride and joy of Ray Sotella, who recently obviously passed away. And we all miss Ray. We love Ray. Kind of taking this thing over and making sure it continues at the level that Ray did it for so many years. How important is that to you?
Extremely important because it's, Coach Sotella is a legend around the Quad City area, all the work he did and the passion that he had for helping young kids be great student athletes. It's hard to duplicate that, that's for sure, because he's got such a great, feel in the community. But I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see how we do. I'm looking forward to it.
No, you'll do absolutely fantastic. He was always running around crazy. I love that about him. And I've seen you at events that you put on in the girls shootout and everything. What is an event like this like? You're used to it. You've had your hands in the volleyball all-star game, obviously the girls shootout for several years, taking over the boys shootout next year. What's an event like tonight like? Because it's busy for you, but I know the one thing in your mind is always those high school kids. Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I just love watching them compete. I love providing opportunities for them to showcase themselves. They've obviously made a huge commitment to be the best in the Quad Cities. So we need to, give them some give them some love for that, because they're the student athletes that we want our younger generation to learn from. That's what I love to do, in part, is to help the younger generation watch them.
No, absolutely. Gary Thrapp joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Gary, you talk about that. There's so many times I've seen kids playing it, and when they talk to us afterwards, or we talk to them, it's I grew up watching this, or I went to this when I was younger. Kind of talk about that, because you mentioned the younger generations. There's going to be a lot of youth in the crowd tonight watching guys that they hope someday are doing some of the same things, and that's important. I think that's a cool part of the event for sure.
Yeah, it's that's what I did with my children when they were young. Just to show you how old I am, I'm a grandparent now, but I used to take them around constantly in the sports they were interested in and watching the best play, just to give that extra education, that extra feel for what it takes to be the best. And it does work. It really inspires our young generation to try to duplicate that and try to maybe be a part of that event at some point in their life.
Gary, the Iowa versus Illinois senior basketball all-star event takes place tonight. The rosters are set. They've practiced and all those kind of things. What was that like? What goes into setting those rosters? It's a wide net when you talk about the Quad Cities area. You got some state champions from McCauland coming down. You got Orion represented, Sherrard. I think there's a great representation of so many. Is it an honor putting those rosters together? Is it challenging? Is it tough? Take me through what it's like to put those rosters together.
I hate it. That's my least favorite thing to do, because we have so many good student athletes that could be part of this. So to be in that position where you have to kind of make decisions is my least favorite thing to do. Because I don't want to mess up, and I do, all the time. But having said that, we have 48 awesome student athletes, seniors in our community that are going to be, that our younger generation can watch tonight. And it's just so much fun to be a part of that, and to get those responses when you reach out to them and give them an invitation to play. It is so cool because they're so excited to play. So I love that part of it.
Absolutely. Gary Thrapp joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. I mentioned the girls game. I want to start there because great talent both sides of the river, but we've really enjoyed the McCauland girls on this show. I think the Quad Cities has enjoyed them as well. To get a couple state champions, and it's so hard to do either side of the river. When you're winning a state championship, you're doing something right, obviously. What's it like to get a couple of those girls down there and to be able to have state champions on the floor at the Carver Center tonight?
Yeah, they seem very excited to play in it. It gives them one more opportunity to play with each other, but also to play with some other awesome athletes here in our community. So they're really excited about it, and I'm excited to, see them play as well. I followed through with all of our teams as they were progressing throughout the season, and they were always fun to watch. Just so competitive, and they play really well together as a team. We'll see how they do with other kids as well.
Yeah, both of those young ladies have been on this show several times, and I've had people reach out saying, those two are awesome, or those girls are great. We watch them from afar. I think that's the beauty part, because McCauland is a Quad City area team. It's an Eastern Iowa area team. When you get into the talking of viewing areas, which is what I used to do, McCauland is in that, so they feel part of the Quad Cities. It's a great opportunity for people to come out and see some girls they watched on TV, but they didn't get a chance to see firsthand tonight. When you look at the guys' side of things, how did that all come apart or come together? And again, just really talented players on both sides of the river, and some smaller schools as well, which I think is cool when you have Orion's all-time leading scorer and you have Sherrard's all-time winningest player coming to the Carver Center tonight. That's kind of fun.
It's really fun because it gives you a really nice, diverse group of people from big cities to small towns that all love basketball. They all love competing. They all love being part of a team. So it's really neat just to see how that plays out in one night. When they haven't played with, so many of them haven't played with each other before. Some have, in travel ball. But this is really fun just to see how people under pressure like this, but having fun, respond to that challenge.
Gary Thrapp joining us on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. There's the two games. They're fun. They're competitive. They're not overly like, it's not that death match or anything like that. They have fun. They compete. It's such good basketball. But there's other things as well. A 3-point shootout. A dunk contest, which is always fun. Kind of talk about those things and something for everyone. Obviously, the basketball games themselves are fun, but to be able to do those little things, and I've seen some, Gary, I've seen some really good dunks in my days at that event. I mean, some real Amarian Nimmers, several years ago, put on an absolute show. Talk about those events and being able to do the fun things besides the just two games themselves.
Yeah, what's partly cool about the dunk contest tomorrow night is two of our judges is going to be Troy Muhlenberg, the central coach, and Stephen Harris, a legend in our community. Both of them back in 1986 participated in the very first All-Star dunk contest.
Wow.
So they're going to be there. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That's
so
crazy.
They're going to be there to be part of the event as well. And I don't know, maybe we can put them in the contest and see how they still do. I know Harris could make it happen because, man, I saw him in some adult leagues and he was amazing.
Did you say 1986? So you're aging those guys. You're outing them on the show, telling people how old they are. Those two don't look good for them. No, they could definitely. Why has there never been a media division? Like, what about a media shootout? And you can get some. I mean, we can shoot it as well, Gary. Not dunk it.
We'll
never dunk it, but shoot it, right?
We'll see about that because between the first and second quarter of the boys' game, we're going to have a little media event. You want to participate? Will you be there? Because we could use one more guy.
I don't know. We'll talk after this. You're putting me on the spot here.
You brought it up.
I know because I didn't think that was actually going to happen. Now I'm a little worried. Gary Thrapp, we'll change the subject. Join us here on Off There with Matt Randazzo. You look at the entire night. Tell people about the schedule. What time do the games start, and getting into the game of event admission, all those kind of things. Give us the details of tonight's event if you can.
Yeah, the girls' game starts at 6:00. The warm-ups will start around 5:30. Let them shoot around a little bit. We'll have a on-site reporter, courtside reporter who wants to be a national reporter someday. She's a University of Iowa student and a Central DeWitt graduate, Alyssa Lippin. So she's going to do some interviews throughout the day as well, courtside. So that'll be a lot of fun. So we're trying to integrate a lot of different concepts just to use this awesome event to help our young generation be a part of something fun. So you won't want to miss it.
Yeah, there's so many things. Come for the evening, go to the concession, get some food, make dinner out of it, all those kind of things. How much for admission?
$8 for an adult, $5 for the senior citizens and high school students. 8th grade and under is free.
Oh.
We want that young generation to come. So if you have any kids 8th grade and under, they walk right in the door and they're free. So the cool thing is we can do that, but at the same time, one of the purposes of this event is to help fund our free opportunities we have at Beyond the Baseline for kids. We offer free things for about 200 kids in our community and competitive athletics. So this is just one of the small fundraisers for it as well.
No, that's awesome. Gary, we started the interview by talking about Coach Swatella. I want to end it there because he's going to be on a lot of people's minds tonight. When you look at it, and I know you mentioned some emails to the media and everything, there's going to be ways to remember Ray. How important is that for I don't know if they've been decided, and I'm not putting you on the spot with all those kind of things, but obviously that's something that this event wants to do in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, I really enjoy highlighting those people that have gone that extra mile to help everyone in our community be successful at something. And Coach Swatella has really done that, obviously, for 25 plus years just in this event. And then, of course, I remember when my kids were young going over to Davenport Central when he was a coach over there playing in his league. So he's been around a long time and been a part of athletics in a very positive way. So with that commitment, we like to keep his name and his legendary efforts alive. So we've got something in mind we're going to announce pretty soon. I'm working with the family. May not happen at this event, but I think we'll have it prepared for that next event.
I love that. Gary, last one for you. You do this one. You do the volleyball game that happens, the All-Star volleyball game. We mentioned both shootouts. Are you crazy?
Depends on who you ask. Yeah. I know someone that's sitting pretty close by that would say, yeah, true. I just love doing it. I've been involved on the youth side for 25 plus years, just at baseline, 20 years at baseline, and then about 40 years coaching youth athletics. So it's what I love to do. This is just kind of like highlight stuff.
No, it's awesome. And I do believe I've done it in the past, and I know it's tonight, MC22. You can watch the games on MC22 as well. So don't worry about that. You don't want to listen to Pete and Johnny. Go down and watch the games in person.
Yeah.
And then maybe tomorrow you can watch them again, or if you're playing it, you can go watch it again. I love Pete and Johnny, but get down there. If you can, it's on MC22. And I'm gonna bug you during the commercial break. I'll find out what kind of craziness you have going on tomorrow night. I got to see what I'm thinking about getting myself into. Gary, I always appreciate your efforts. If you need anything from me, always let me know. And good luck tonight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. That is Gary Thrapp. Of course, again, and I got to get the name right. The Iowa versus Illinois Senior Basketball All-Star event tonight down at the Carver Center. And we just mentioned it. So many things. There's the girls game, 3-point shooting contest, the boys game, dunk contest, all of those things in between. It's a fun night. We're going to be outside playing baseball and softball and track and all those things, soccer here in the very near future. Let's go celebrate high school basketball one more time tonight. Carver Center, the place to be. Things tip off at 6 o'clock, and hopefully we see everybody down there. We got more to get to. You watch an OTA. It's a busy Monday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off There with Matt Randazzo here on a very busy Monday in the Quad Cities. Thank you to everybody watching on YouTube, X. The numbers outstanding today, and for very good reason. It's Sweet 16 talk when it comes to our area here in the Quad Cities, the state of Iowa, the state of Illinois, Iowa State, Iowa, and Illinois, all in the Sweet 16. So plenty to talk about. A few things before we wrap up. The Iowa women play today. In fact, less than an hour away at Carver Hawkeye Arena. We'll have Kyle Huseman tomorrow, maybe John Bonenkamp as well. We got to figure everything out to talk about the Iowa women, see if they can punch their ticket to the Sweet 16 as well. The Illinois women play at 6 p.m. tonight against Vanderbilt with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line for them. So the ladies take center stage this afternoon and this evening. When it comes to an OTA bracket challenge, and then once again, thank you to, in fact, what I'm going to do just to make sure we give them a little extra love, we'll put the bracket challenge graphic up to show our awesome sponsors who have helped us out with this event. But after the first 4 days of the NCAA tournament, in first place by herself, Molly Short, which is my niece and my Detroit Lions fan niece. So bless her heart. Jake Smithers is in second. Of course, he is Michigan winning it all. Jackie Franks is in third with a bunch of people. Jackie Franks, my lovely wife, Jennifer Randazzo, Kyle Scheibert, and then also Kyle Plesch. I think. I don't want to mess up your last name, Kyle, but thank you for getting in. You guys are all tied for third, familiar names and good names all the way throughout this. So nearly 200 people got in to the bracket challenge, which we love and appreciate as well. I do have to mention, while Molly Short is in first place, her mom, my sister, is in dead last place. So that shows you where Molly gets her sports knowledge. Sorry, it's not her dad, Dave. It's her Uncle Matt. So keep an eye on it. Obviously, everything can change. A lot of people still have their national champions, several different national champions, all of those kind of things. So it should be a fun next weekend and then stretched into the Final Four in the national championship game for the OTA bracket challenge. I want to thank everybody for watching today's show. I want to thank our guests. If you missed it, Jess Settles and Kent McCausland. They took Iowa to the Sweet 16 back in 1999 with J.R. Koch and a whole bunch of other great names. That drought is done, but we had those two on talking about what it was like to watch these Hawkeyes do something that hasn't been done since them 27 years ago. Awesome stuff. Go check it out. Also, Nicholas Baer, former Hawkeye, former Bettendorf standout, joining us to break down the X's and O's of Iowa's improbable victory over Florida and now trip to the Sweet 16 in Houston, Texas. We also had Mike Cagley from the Illini guys talking Illini athletics and, of course, their basketball team heading to the Sweet 16 as well. And then we previewed the All-Star game tonight with Gary Thrapp as well. So it was a busy show. Tomorrow will be equally as busy. I know we didn't talk on Iowa State today. Going to try to get Jake Brend on tomorrow's show. So we'll have the women to talk about. We'll have Jake Brend. So much more to get to tomorrow and throughout the week right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. We're just getting started. Another new edition comes your way tomorrow at 10 a.m.